Hello and welcome to our podcast, Art in Conversation. I'm India.
And I am Scarlett, and we are from 108 Fine Art Gallery.
In this episode, we will be speaking with Yukako Sakakura, an artist from Japan who studied at Glasgow School of Art and now paints within the Japanese mountains.
My name is Yukako Sakakura. I'm an artist training in Glasgow and now based in Japan. I have been working in my studio all day and painting a lot. I made 2 paintings last month and I'm starting a new one this week as well.
You studied painting and printmaking at Glasgow School of Art. Why did you want to move to Scotland? And did you have any surprises with the culture shock?
I love adventure and I wanted to go somewhere like completely different from the world I had lived in before. But of course I did a lot of research, but I mainly followed my intuition. Like I just felt like, oh, this is a place I should go. So I can't really explain it in words, but in the end, my intuition was right. And the culture shock, yes. I'm surprised by how much people love going to the park for no reason, and just to sit and read a book. So in the first year in Glasgow, I kept on questioning why people did this. But after 4 years, I started going to the park for no reason too.
Your studio is currently in Japan. Can you tell us a bit about this space?
I live in a little studio house surrounded by mountains, and I have both my living space and a studio space there, and lots of animals wander around in the gardens, and my favorite is like a flying squirrel.
Do the animals around you inspire your work?
The animals, not really, but more like flowers and trees, I think. I just enjoy their stepping sounds, I live by myself, so I don't feel alone whenever they come. They come to my garden, and I feel like, oh, they're coming, and then the birds are singing, and so it's quite fun.
Having a studio space in rural Japan, do you find that different environments influence the way that you work?
Yeah, definitely I do. In the mountains, you can really feel you're part of this planet, and in spring you sense that everyone's like waking up for new lives, and at night it's really dark, and if you live in town you can't imagine how dark it is, but when you look up the sky and you can easily forget where you are standing, and it's just like I just love this magical feeling, so it's very inspiring.
What is your painting process and what inspires you to paint?
I don't really make any studies, but I sometimes make sketches which are more like doodles with lots of text, and anything can be my inspiration to paint: music, politics, and poems. So I don't spend like much time actively searching for inspirations; just comes to me naturally.
You used to have a discrete figure within your painting. Why was she a part of the environment and why is she no longer there?
The initial idea for the small kind of self-portrait figure came from my wish to touch the world of my imagination, and the figure allowed me to kind of enter reality where I was never actually able to touch and live. So no matter how much kind of I wished for it. So this idea is still important to my work, but the expression of it has changed and developed, becoming less figurative.
Yukako has a unique gift called synesthesia, where stimulation of one sensory can influence involuntary experiences in a second sensory. Yukako, how long have you had this and how does it affect your artwork?
I'm not sure when this started. At first, I didn't think I even had a different sensory experience from others. It does affect how I make color layers for sure. I humanize colors when I mix, and I'm actually speaking to them in my head, such as like you have to come fast this time to stand out, and then you are too bright or painful, and I will cover you sorry or something like that. It sounds mad, doesn't it? But there are no rules and of the process, and after I finish the work, I often can't remember how I painted it.
Do you give the colours personalities then?
Yeah, I think so. I hated yellow before so much. It was just too painful to me somehow. I avoided the color like for 3 years. I tried to use it, but whenever I put it, I feel like, oh, I hate you so much. Like it's like destroying everything. So yeah, so I avoid it.
Within your most recent paintings, you've brought in more circular shapes. What inspired this?
I still remember I've got the idea when I was walking in the mountains at night. It was a full moon, maybe that's why. I started thinking about how so many of us have this, unspeakable stress hanging over our head. So these stresses are like balloons, kind of like balloons with tracks affected by the environment. For me, this environment is the kind of climate of opinion and justice in the society we belong to. So this is how I got the idea.
Calligraphy is a large part of the Japanese culture. Has this tradition influenced the way that you work?
My parents sent me to calligraphy school when I was 3, before I even learned how to write. And the reason was very simple. I was left-handed. And this is very, very common in Japan, like parents sending their kids for training at traditional calligraphy school to let them be right-handed. In traditional calligraphy, people think we should use the right hand, but I loved using my left hand. So I didn't become 100% right-handed. I painted with my left hand, and at school I used my right hand to study. For calligraphy, of course, the brush strokes are important, but to me, it is how you control your breathing and concentrate on your own imagination that influence the kind of marks and lines you want to make. Also, during the course of completing one mark, you stop breathing like you're holding your breath. I think this process really influenced how I work. I can't help stop breathing in front of my canvas even now.
Do you paint with your left hand now?
Both hands, yeah, because now I can use my right hand, and as a studio, I don't need to hide. Well, I was not really hiding, but at school I needed to use right hand anyway. When you make drawings, erasers usually for left hand, and then pencils are for right hand. So you use just both hands like that. And then for painting, well, usually big brushes are for left hand, I think.
How do you create the titles for your paintings?
Title of the works takes me ages, like sometimes 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And I have some abstract ideas before painting, but I sometimes have a few ideas while painting too. So after finishing the work, I actually speak the title out loud in front of the work. And then using my imagination, I keep doing that until I feel the work is kind of willing to speak the sentence.
When you are not painting, what other interest do you have?
I was into kendo, a Japanese martial arts, like using bamboo saws. when I was a teenager, especially. And I have been very much interested in science. And I wanted to be a physicist before. I still remember when I first learned about free electrons in science at school. Do you know free electrons? I was so excited, and I went mad for holding metal doors, like metal door knobs, at home for ages, and imagining how the heat was transmitted from my hands. And I'm glad my mom didn't stop me, but I was a bit crazy kid.
Who inspires you?
Old masters, my favorite is Marc Chagall. Anselm Kiefer influenced my work a lot. You know, the small figures idea actually came from Anselm Kiefer's work.
Going back to your earlier years, can you remember the earliest thoughts of wanting to become an artist?
Maybe that was when I went to Roscoe Room in Japan. There's a Roscoe Room in London and Japan too. And I was 17, I think. And I stayed there for 1 hour at least. And then that was a huge impact on my life. And I was kind of astonished by what artists could do.
Over the past few years, you have made work that has been shown in Paul Smith's stores. How did this opportunity arise, and did his designs influence your paintings?
Yeah, my intuition actually. One morning, I just suddenly saw that I should be brave enough to contact this huge company and introduce myself because I love this shop. So I simply contacted them, even though I didn't know anyone from the company. And this is how it happened. And you never know what can happen with your passion. Their design didn't affect. I got really inspired by how they display my work with lightings and so yeah, I really like that.
Obviously, you're interested in fashion and clothes. Have you always been interested in it?
Yes, definitely. It's like just a part of my life. Yeah. This is the reason why I love going, I love going to Tokyo, and I just go to the department stores and see all the beautiful colors. Actually, the clothes I love is affecting my color palette sometimes. I started using quite vivid colors and then started wearing vivid colors.
What are you working on at the moment? Has the current COVID-19 situation affected any of your upcoming projects?
Fortunately, I finished my solo show just before COVID-19 affected the whole world. But yes, it has affected some of my future plans. But most importantly, I can paint every day at my studio. So I'm a very optimistic person. So I'm just making lots of works.
What is your career highlight, would you say?
I have been international showing with many galleries, dealers, and institutions such as Barbican Center. My works have been featured in Vogue and the BBC, and my past solo exhibition was reviewed in Financial Times Critics' Choice.
Thank you for listening to our podcast, Art in Conversation.
Follow us for regular podcasts and give our show a like, share, and review.
See you next time.